Thanks for joining us today. We have a presentation by Kingfisher Metals, which trades under the ticker KFR on the TSX-V. With me, I have CEO Dustin Perry. Before we get started, a couple things. First off, as always, this presentation will contain forward-looking statements. You can find those on the presentation on the company's website. And there will be a Q&A section to this session, so feel free to input your questions in the Q&A box. And with that out of the way, I'd like to introduce Dustin Perry, CEO of Kingfisher. They put out their first drill results this morning from Gold Range, so it's going to be an exciting session hearing all about those. Hey, Dustin, how are you?
Hi, Deb. I'm good. A little haggard right now. I just got off a flight to London on the red eye, so a little bit of jet lag. But yeah, I'm here, and we put out our first results today, which are, we're really happy with them. We've proven, at least to ourselves, that we've got a big gold system on our hands, and there's a lot more to come over the following years drilling this target.
Definitely. I think that you also put a video in the press release this morning that people may want to check out, but I think you're going to run through it pretty thoroughly. So for anyone that's not familiar with the story, please feel free to check out some of the previous webinars. But Dustin, maybe just dive right into a little bit of background on yourself and the results you put out this morning.
So yeah, Kingfisher is a new company. We got listed on March 18th of this year. Listed on the Toronto Stock, the Venture Exchange, the OTCQB, and the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. We're a BC-focused company, founded by young, tenacious geologists. We have a lot of good advisors helping us out. Charlie Gregg was out there this summer with us and looked at this drill core, actually. He made a big discovery at GT Gold recently. But the focus for this company is exploring relatively underexplored projects in BC. We have 3 district scale projects. For now, I'm just going to talk about Gold Range, but if you want more information on the other ones, look on our presentation on our website or on our website. So I'm going to get into this. I'm a geologist and I am really optimistic, and I'm going to be making forward-looking statements. So please have a look at this. So a little background on Gold Range. Gold Range is located in southwest BC. It's about 2.5-hour drive from Williams Lake. It takes me about 8 hours to drive there from where I live in Squamish. It's in a gold belt called the Yallecum Gold Belt, which is really anchored on the Yallecum Fault. And this gold belt has produced a really significant deposit in Braylorn, which was called the crown jewel of BC. Talisker is currently completing, I believe, a 100,000-meter drill program there. Braylorn was mined historically and produced 4.2 million ounces at 17.7 grams per ton. So there's a lot of high-grade mineralization in this belt. The package of land that we have put together, we believe, represents a new district, just like the Bridge River District, which hosts Braylorn. But on the Gold Range project, so it's a large project. It's 367 square kilometers. There's numerous targets around it. Many high grade defined by samples over an ounce showings. But the cloud drifter trend is what really got us excited here, because it had an incredible soil anomaly. And in 2000, prior to going public, we were out there. I was out there. Our vice president of exploration, Gail Febo, was out there with a baby in her belly. Actually, she was 5 months pregnant, climbing around these mountains. We went to confirm this historic soil anomaly. So defining it, and then tightening up and doing a lot of infill sampling. And the combined anomaly, which stretches over 3 by 2 kilometers, has 50 samples over 1 gram per ton in soil. We took 312 rock samples there last year, which averaged over 6 grams per ton. And then Gail did a really good job mapping it. So this was the first ever drill program on this entire project. And we started in July of this year and finished it in late September. And we're really impressed with the results. What we saw were, wide scale alteration, and in visual inspection. And then with the news we just put out, we're seeing quite a bit of gold mineralization near surface at a little lower grades, but then high grade corridors. So high grade corridors near surface, but then this breccia zone that we intersected that was 6.88 grams per ton over 9 meters. So we're seeing kind of what we expected, but then this new style of mineralization within a different intrusion in that breccia really has us excited, because it was a blind discovery. Before we go any further, though, I'm just going to touch on where we drilled and what this anomaly looks like, and then also how this anomaly stacks up in terms of its fingerprint compared to well-known deposits. So drilling focused on a small area here, which is about 10% of the actual overall anomaly. And the reason we did it in that fashion, in a conservative fashion, was, we had to make sure we would hit on the first program. There's not a ton of outcrop when you get into the forest. So a lot of our geological interpretations were interpretations. They were based off magnetics, based off IP surveys that we did. And drilling this year was really to try to sort that out, confirm our model. It did confirm the model. And then also try to make sense of the structure. It's a pretty complicated structurally hosted gold system. So on a first program, a lot of the work is going to be spent on trying to sort out those structural issues, which is why we used oriented core. And then, taking that, and that will de-risk future exploration. You'll have a lot more confidence in which way to drill. And, part of that you can see here is there's two primary orientation or azimuths to the drilling here. We actually changed midway through the program because we started seeing, a multitude of orientations, but we wanted to make sure we weren't missing anything and started drilling more to the west. But outside of this area we drilled, there's a lot of other interesting targets. So at the Langara zone, there was historic hand mining back in the 1930s, a couple adits. At the standard zone down in the southern part here, we actually did a backpack drill intercept there of 10.84 grams per ton over 6.9 meters from surface. And then there's a few other zones, the waterfall and essential, that we found in 2020. So there's a lot of good grade kicking around here. But then there's challenges, like there's cover in quite a few areas and talus obscuring outcrop. So we think this soil anomaly, it's representing where you're getting rock eroding, not where you're getting coverage by talus or glacial till in the middle of the valley there where it says covered. So we think this is a bigger target than the geochem appears, but even as is, it's a really big target. So just quickly, this is what the fingerprint looks like. Anybody that's following the story has definitely seen these before, but anybody that's new to the story, you can see the cloud drifter trend up here on the top left. Barkerville, white gold, and coffee are on there as well. And those are all at scale maps with publicly available data. Everything's color coded the same. So the fingerprint of cloud drifter is really substantial, and it really does stack up to well-known projects. So a little bit about the geology here. I'm going to try to simplify this for everybody right now. If you want more detail, you can look in the YouTube video that Gail and I did, or previous disclosures we made. But the focus here is these intrusions really seem to be the right place for getting gold mineralization. You need a structure intersecting that, or a couple structures. We focused on the upper diorite intrusion. You can see the main area where these drill colors and traces are going through. The reason we did that is we had more confidence in it because we had more exposure. We did put this one hole and then subsequent ones into the lower quartz diorite, and that's where we hit that really nice breccia that created 6.88 grams per ton over 9 meters. So we're seeing mineralization in both intrusions, and seeing it in this quartz diorite was really exciting for us because we had a lot of really nice grab samples along strike from that up to 300 or 400 meters to the east. To the west, it's undercover. But we've seen good grades in the 6 to 10 gram range in that intrusion. And that kind of mineralization can really bulk up. So that has us excited. And also seeing this breccia mineralization holding up over width has us excited because there's other breccias in this area that also have high grade and actually outcrop. I'm just going to touch on this briefly. Intrusions here seem to have a magnetic low signature. We're not entirely, we don't have 100% confidence in this magnetic, what you can see here in the mag, but there's a lot of areas that have these magnetic low signatures really close to high grade samples. So we believe there's potential for many more of these intrusions. I can't comment yet on why they're magnetic lows. It could be a function of alteration, but a lot of them correlate with our drilling, and there's a lot of other ones. So we'll be testing a lot of these next year with an expanded drill program, and we're pretty hopeful for this. So this is where we drilled. You can see the 6 drill collars on here. Most of them were in a line up in here in the forest, and then we took a couple down lower at the end of this program. And the first one up top, that was actually where we drilled first. That was pretty tricky drilling. A couple of drillers actually quit because the drilling was so difficult. You're drilling through a deformation zone, so really fractured rock. We had about approximately 50% recovery on the top, approximately 50 meters of both holes. So those holes did not produce what we were hoping. We didn't return the veins we were seeing at surface. We haven't written that off though. We want to go test it with RC where you get 100% recovery. Reason for that is a lot of these veins oxidize readily, and a lot of that material could easily be washed away with drill fluids. We did see some signs that would point to there being veins there, such as higher arsenic values in areas that were really broken where the actual veins might have washed away. But all in, that didn't produce the values we had hoped. But when we stepped down into the intrusion, which is a lot more competent, we started getting really nice area zones of really broad alteration. So these drill holes were pretty much altered for the entirety of the width. And then you're getting broad zones of gold mineralization near surface. And then down low, you're getting the breccia body. So these are the results here. The headline was the 6.88 grams per ton. I think that works out to approximately 7.3 gold equivalent. We don't list gold equivalent in here because we don't know what the final, if we do make a major discovery here, we don't know what the final deposit metallurgy will be and whether you will be able to combine those. So for transparency, we're just including the values as is and not making a calculation here. But you can see here, there's a lot of broad areas of gold mineralization, and they might appear like they're away from surface in this drill table, but when I show you the section shortly, you'll see that we were drilling parallel to slope. So everything is located quite close to surface. And this is just a really small test of a really big anomaly. So this is what these drill intercepts look like in plan view. You can see the 2 holes that really produced, hole 3 and hole 7. You can see there's some continuity between them along strike. That's about 50 meters or so apart. And there's just a lot of gold mineralization in there. What I'm getting at is that there's a lot of smoke. And on a first pass drill program, it's really tricky in this type of setting where you've got a lot of cover or forest or just not a lot of outcrop control. It's really tricky to be able to hit every feeder structure or ore chute perfectly on a first pass. But given the amount of smoke we're seeing, we're really encouraged because when you get a lot of smoke, there's often a lot of fire or there's fire. So the initial results, the team is incredibly encouraged, and we're really excited to drill at much tighter spacing next year and test a few different orientations based on the modeling we'll do this winter on oriented drill core. As well, we plan on testing the entirety of this anomaly next year. So this is hole 1. I talked about it briefly. You can see how close to surface this drill hole was. We were trying to go as low confidence as possible and kind of just scrape below the surface, hoping to hit the veins that we hit at surface. You can see some of the veins here, and there's previous maps that show that. We did drill a backpack hole here in much more silicified rock that did return 8.3 meters of a gram. So there's definitely gold there. It just did not show up in these drill holes. So I wouldn't write this off, but the result wasn't what we had hoped for. But then moving to the east, things started looking a lot more promising. So this is an example of a vein on the left. These are the kind of veins we're seeing in there. They're generally ranging from 10 to 20 centimeters in width. But a sample like that, say if it's 10 centimeters within a 1 meter interval, it's giving you a grade of or half to 3 grams or so in those areas. So it's actually a high grade vein. It's just narrow. And the focus will be on defining where these veins are getting wider or the density of them is getting tighter. But they're there, which was the key thing we wanted to find on this drill program. So the real nice number we had here was from this breccia body we intersected. And you can see on the left, the images there, it's a multi-phase breccia. So you're getting vein clasts and intrusions with essentially stockwork within it that has been broken up with the brecciation event, and then there's been additional mineralization within that. And what we're really encouraged in with this are the pathfinder elements that are associated with it. So there's up to, I guess, across this 9 meters is 0.1% antimony, which for one confirms our belief that we're in the higher up epizonal environment. But then there's also really high tellurium and bismuth values, which are really indicative of a really good mineralizing fluid that has the potential to produce even higher grades. But within that intercept, we're getting some good grades in there, up to 14 grams over a meter within that. So it's a really nice looking intercept, and we were very pleased when we saw it come out of the ground. So this was stuff I included in the video, and it was really just trying to break down to investors what orogenic systems look like at varying depths. So I used a lightning bolt here, and then I put it side by side with a well-known diagram from an academic journal of what an orogenic system looks like as you go from surface down to which is near the epizonal environment, down to the more ductile mesozonal environment. And I'm using Braylorn as an analog because we're in the same belt as them, and Braylorn sits a lot deeper than us. And where it sits is, it formed at that depth, but the top, there was likely an epizonal system above it that's been eroded, and present day surface is down in the 6 kilometer range. Where we are at Gold Range, we're quite a bit higher up in the Earth's crust. So we're in that epizonal environment. And the significance to us is that you get a more rectangular shape to the mineralized system versus getting something with a really long aspect ratio where you might get 100 meters or even less width, but a few kilometers strike. We've got that 2 kilometers width to what we're seeing at surface. But with that, you get more complex geometry to it. And in our opinion, that makes exploration a little tougher at the beginning until you figure out that geometry and figure out what is feeding these. Because the key with all orogenic systems is, even if you're getting relatively low-lying veins at surface, everything's coming from a deeper feeder. And that breccia body we hit, to us, it looks like it is probably getting closer to a more subvertical feeder. And this lightning analogy I like because you can see how it's splaying off as you get to surface because this lightning bolt is inverted. But eventually they come into a feeder, and that's the analogy the picture I'm trying to paint here. So that's really what I've got here, and I think we should turn it over to Q&A.
Thanks, Dustin. That slide's really interesting. I hadn't seen something like that before. I think you recently updated your full presentation and put it on the website too for anyone that wants to go through the full deck.
That particular slide, I shy away from putting anything too promotional on our website in case it gets taken out of context. So I've only used that in a video so I can actually explain it.
Okay, sure. And the videos can be found on, I know it's on your social media. Is it on your website?
On our YouTube channel, and it's linked within the news release.
Okay, great. I have one audience question, and I know we spoke about this earlier before the webinar, just talking about today's sell-off and how you view that. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I think the results were really positive and you can't help when people take liquidity, but maybe you can speak to your own views on that briefly.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a rude shock, stepping off the airplane and seeing that result this morning. That's not what I expected. I expected it to go the other direction. This is a major technical success, finding a new system in a previously unexplored area. This is the first drill program for many kilometers in a direction. So I'm at a bit of a loss right now. I'm going to try to figure that out over the next few days, why that happened. And if there's any way to prevent that happening in the future. But I've also seen a lot of really positive news releases just leading to liquidity events over the last year or so, which is something to do with the finicky state of the market. But that's beyond me. I'm focused on trying to make a discovery here, and that's what we're committed to doing here.
Market will do what the market's going to do over the short term, but there has been
some things are out of our control.
Yeah, there's been a lot of buying coming in too, soaking up some of that selling, myself included. So I think we'll see more of that. And it's never bad to see shares change hand and rotation of shareholders. Talking about the program, I know you've got about half your holes left to report. Do you have a timeline on those? Can you talk to when you think you might have another news release for us?
We do not have a timeline yet. We had no additional holes at the time of putting this out. So I can't commit to any timeline here, given what we've already been experiencing, but we'll get the news out as soon as we can.
Do you have a diagram?
So there's 10 holes remaining.
Do you have a diagram or can you talk to where those holes are and what you're trying to achieve with those, with that part of the program?
Yes, let me just go back to the, okay. So the remaining holes are these ones over here, these ones over here, and everything in green on here is remaining. So the ones, so these two over here are 8 and 9, or sorry, 9 and 10. These are 10 and 11. These are 12, 13, 14 down here. And 5 and 6 are in here, and 4 is hidden right through here. And so the remainder of the holes, we're testing an area of broad mineralization. There's more of these laminated high-grade veins. Well, we would expect them to be high-grade veins within there. There's some areas of quartz flooding where you're getting sulfide replacement. You're getting some stockwork mineralization. Actually, in the sedimentary rocks, we're getting some pretty sexy looking stockwork mineralization where you're getting arsenopyrite stockwork. And then the lower holes, we're testing a corridor that we believed was a major north-south structure through here. And those three holes, the two that are angled more to the west there where they're together, those actually got into some pretty good looking brecciated mineralization in that quartz diorite as well. And one of them actually hit a quartz vein that was 11 meters wide, I believe.
And so talking about your first program being a success, what was it that you were looking to achieve with this program? And then maybe you can talk a little bit about how you're looking at your next drill program. I know you still have your results to go through, but maybe you could give us just sort of an overview of where you're at in terms of thoughts.
So the first program, we were drilling a soil anomaly. We needed to make sure that there was something causing that was legitimate, and we've definitely determined that there is. And we wanted to get a handle on the alteration, the structure, the styles of mineralization, and what areas were most prospective. Was it the upper intrusion or was it the lower intrusion? I think they're both pretty prospective. I think the key is finding where you're getting near a significant controlling structure and it's intersecting one of these intrusions where it is intersecting a sedimentary rock. I guess the main goals were to hit broad mineralization and just a large system. Seeing an anomaly like this, there has to be something over a significant area. But that being said, we focused on a small area where we had the most geological control. We've advanced this pretty damn quickly, given that it was soil sampled initially, and it was mapped, but it wasn't really mapped. It was mapped very coarsely and actually incorrectly in 87, 88. And then nobody worked it until we were out there last summer, the entire company sleeping in pup tents on the ground. And get all out there 5 months pregnant. That's what we did, and then we went straight into a drill program this year. And we felt, we don't like to rush exploration, but we felt we had enough confidence in this to do it. And I don't see how any surface work would have changed what we would have done this year. These are really good targets, and these are really good initial drill results on a grassroots play. Like you can't expect to hit a Bruce Jack on a grassroots target where it's completely unknown mineralization. And to hit mineralization over significant widths and then, potentially mineable grade over potentially mineable widths is a huge success for us. And I assume the market would have felt that way, but maybe not today.
Did you spend any time this summer doing field work on other targets or backpack drilling on other regions? Have you been advancing your pipeline of targets for next season?
Yes, so we did an IP survey over our day trip zone, which was something we actually found in 2000, and that will be coming out fairly soon. And then we did, I believe, 2,500 soil samples across the project. A lot of that was regional in the north end of the project, which had never seen exploration. And then some of it was in areas kind of around the cloud drifter trend. A lot of rock sampling too. We did some backpack drilling at the Langara zone where we found new veins on the backside within a soil anomaly. And then the Lost Fiddle zone, we already released results from there up to 42 grams per ton. And then over at the Lotus zone, which is about, I don't know offhand, I think it's about 7 or 8 or 10 kilometers southwest of here. And that's got an outcropping vein that had some really nice ounce material over a meter in channels. So we did backpack drilling at all 3 of those zones, but really drilling was the focus here this year and covering as much regional ground first pass.
Assuming your other assays come back with similar results or results that you're expecting, what would your phase 2 drill program or your 2022 drill program look like? What would you like to achieve? What would you like to target? And remind me again what the season is.
So we could start early May at the day trip zone, which we want to go do a track mounted RC program there. It would be really cost effective because it's basically a plateau of scree with subcropping mineralization over a good sized area. It's 90 by 70 meters, where it's probably 25% arsenopyrite breccia at surface, grading up to 20 grams. So we'd like to go test that, follow up on our IP results, and there's a big geochemical anomaly there. Test that, move that over to Langara, do some preliminary RC drilling and move it over to the Lost Fiddle area, and then test a few targets within the cloud drifter zone, this part of the cloud drifter trend, with the RC rig, and then probably mid-June have a diamond drill arrive and get that going for the entirety of the program. So I would like to drill closer to 10,000 meters next year, now that we know there's something significant here. And, there'll be some, obviously that breccia we're going to have to follow up on and test it along strike and down dip or down plunge. But we need to evaluate the rest of the soil anomaly. And we'll be looking at a few other things over the winter, like potential new geophysical techniques. I think EM might work here well, given the high sulfide content in that breccia. That's obviously going to be a focus of target, that type of mineralization. But we've got a busy winter ahead going through all the data we collected, and next year we'll be more aggressive for sure. Now that we know we've got something.
And in terms of RC versus diamond drilling, what's the price differential and the benefit to using diamond?
So diamond, you're not going to get oriented drill core with diamond, or you don't get the visual. There's some, you're just getting fine rock chips. There's some advances. You can get a televiewer, which is basically a camera that goes down the hole now, and you can get a log of the outside of the hole that way. But where we see the advantage with the RC is using one of these track mounted drill rigs where you don't have to move it. You move it once with a helicopter, and then it can have its have the air compressors in one location and move around that area. RC has some challenges in BC, so it's very commonly used in Nevada, Australia, for example, areas where it's dry. When it hits groundwater, there's often a lot of issues. Luckily, we're in a really dry area for BC. I've used it in northern BC with, varying success. It also can't go as deep with these fly RC rigs, maybe 200 meters depth. But it's really good for testing near surface targets really quickly because you can drill up to 100 meters in a day. Maybe 15,000.
Interesting. Well, I had never heard of the Chilcotin until we started working together, and I actually was there this summer, and it is really dry up there. And I think it's a plain, it's high elevation, right?
Yeah, well, the big key is it's some of the biggest mountains in BC are due west of it, so it's a rain shadow. Mm-hmm. Instead of being in the middle of the really big mountains, like in the Golden Triangle, it's on the leeward side, so it's quite dry. I don't think we had any standby days the last 2 years there.
I remember driving up from Bella Coola. You drive up the mountains, and you typically expect to drive down the mountain, but you never really do. You're just kind of up there. It's an interesting area of the province for sure. Well, I don't have any more audience questions, Dustin. Is there anything else you wanted to cover today?
No, just reach out if you have questions. We do our best to make ourselves really available, and we're really excited with these results. And if you talk to us in person, you might feel the same way. But we got a lot of loyal shareholders and institutions backing us, and I think they're going to be happy with this as well.
And you're meeting a lot of new people over the coming weeks. I think you're doing a big marketing spree right now. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so I'm actually doing a podcast with Trevor Hall here shortly before dinner. I haven't actually eaten anything since I was in Vancouver, but and then tomorrow I've got probably about 10 meetings at the one-to-one event in London, and then Thursday same deal, and doing a Crux interview live from there, and then I will be meeting a good investor of ours in Portugal. And then going to see one of our tech advisors, Francis, in Munich to talk about rocks for a weekend, and then back here for Mines and Money. So if anybody is around and wants to meet me in London, get at me soon.
I think you'll have a booth at Mines and Money, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, we will.
You can swing by. And that's great. Well, it's nice that you can finally get out on the road and meet people face to face. As Dustin said, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or the company. And I would also recommend following Dustin on Twitter. He's quite active and posts a lot of photos from site and a lot of additional information. So if you're following the story, that's a good place to get information. Yeah, and thanks so much for everyone's time. Dustin, congrats on the results. I think they're great. I've been a buyer, so don't let the market dissuade you. Just keep going. And, like you said, you're driven by discovery, and that's what you're going to do.
Absolutely.
Have a good one.
Thanks,
Bye, everyone. Thanks for participating.